Today we are digging into a massive challenge facing Iran, one that's not always in the headlines, but is absolutely critical. We're talking about the country's devastating water crisis. And let me tell you, this is way more than just an environmental problem. It's a crisis that's shaking the very foundations of the nation's stability.
You know, this quote really sets the stage perfectly. We tend to think about countries in terms of their politics or their armies, right? But this is a stark reminder that survival, true survival, comes down to the most fundamental resource there is: water.
And to really get a sense of what this means for people, you just have to look at Isfahan, which is basically the cultural heart of Iran. Its famous river, the Zayande Rud, literally means life-giving. But now it's often bone dry. All that water gets diverted to politically connected industries before it can even reach the city. It's become this tragic symbol of a nation literally running dry.
Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the sheer scale of this problem. Because this isn't just about one dry riverbed. We're talking about a full-blown, nationwide emergency.
According to the World Resources Institute, Iran ranks fourth in the entire world for extreme water scarcity. That's not just bad. It puts Iran in the absolute highest risk category of water-stressed nations on the planet.
And all of this is pushing the country toward a really terrifying idea: day zero. That's the actual term for the point when a country's water reserves could just run out. I mean, we're talking about a scenario where the taps could literally stop working for millions and millions of people.
But here is the absolute key to understanding this whole situation, and really the point of this whole explainer. This is not a natural disaster. It's not just bad luck with rainfall or climate change. No, this is an artificial, man-made crisis, and it's been decades in the making.
So that just begs the question, right? If this isn't Mother Nature's fault, then whose is it? Who's responsible for letting Iran's lakes disappear and its ancient water sources run dry?
Well, inside Iran, they have a name for it. They call it the water mafia. And look, this isn't some fringe conspiracy theory. It's a term used to describe a very real, very powerful network of officials, CEOs, and lobbyists. People who basically treat the country's water like a commodity to be exploited for their own personal gain, not as a vital national resource. So at the very center of this network, you've got the state contractor, IWPC. They're the ones building the dams and the big water transfer projects. But it's bigger than just them. They're surrounded by this whole ecosystem of engineers, academics, and bureaucrats who all benefit from these massive megaprojects, which are often greenlit with almost zero thought for the environmental consequences. It's a system that's just become totally entrenched.
All right, so let's get into the specifics. How does this actually work? What are the policies and projects on the ground that are literally draining the land dry?
Well, the signature program has been an absolute frenzy of dam building. Just look at these numbers. The number of dams in Iran more than doubled in just 6 years. This mad dash to control every last drop of water, usually without any real planning, has had devastating effects. Now, even the huge dams that supply major cities like Tehran are sitting at dangerously low levels.
So where is all this water actually going? I mean, with all those dams, where is it flowing? This chart tells the whole story, and it is staggering. A whopping 90% of Iran's water is being poured into agriculture. It's all driven by this government policy of food self-sufficiency, but it's being done with incredibly wasteful, old-school farming methods. And if you want a perfect, almost absurd example of this, check this out. It takes 150 liters of precious water to grow a single kilogram of watermelon. And these watermelons are often grown in the driest parts of the country by companies with, you guessed it, political connections. And because the crop is sold so cheaply abroad, Iran is literally exporting its own water for pennies on the dollar. A few people get rich while whole communities run out of water.
So, with the rivers drying up, what do? You drill. Farmers have dug hundreds of thousands of wells, topping into underground aquifers. But just look at this deficit. It's not even close. The country is pumping out nearly 3 times more groundwater than what's being replaced by rain each year. We're talking about ancient water reserves that took thousands of years to build up, and they're being emptied in just a few decades.
And this is where a physical crisis of water becomes a deep social crisis. The fight over this dwindling resource is starting to pit communities against each other, and it's threatening to tear the country's social fabric apart.
One of the biggest flashpoints is the government's strategy of re-engineering the country's entire geography with these massive water transfer projects. And if you look closely, a really troubling pattern emerges.
Water often gets diverted away from regions where ethnic minorities live, like Arabs and Lurs, and it gets sent to supply industries and cities in Persian-majority provinces.
And this isn't just an abstract idea, okay? It's causing very real conflict. We've seen major protests in Khuzestan over water being sent to steel factories and sugar plantations. Over in West Azerbaijan, the total collapse of Lake Urmia is creating new tensions between the local Azerbaijani and Kurdish communities. See? This is about way more than just water now. It's about identity, fairness, and justice. So, what's the government's plan to fix all this? Well, their main solution involves, you guessed it, more mega projects. But as we're about to see, these are pretty desperate moves that might just be buying them a little bit of time.
The government's big, grand plan is to build these absolutely enormous pipelines to carry desalinated seawater from the coast hundreds of kilometers inland. The goal here is to get water to these provinces that are completely stressed out. A few of these pipelines are already up and running, and they're feeding huge industrial sites like copper and iron mines.
But let's be honest, this is a band-aid at best. I mean, sure, it provides some short-term relief. But on the other side of the ledger, desalination is incredibly expensive and uses a ton of energy. Two things Iran doesn't really have to spare. And most importantly, it does absolutely nothing to fix the real problem, the mismanagement of water in agriculture. It might even make things worse, as communities see all this expensive water flowing right past them to big industrial plants.
And that really brings us to this powerful final thought from the source material. This crisis isn't just an external problem that withers crops, it's an internal one. It's creating new fault lines, new borders, inside the country itself.
You know, nature always keeps its own books, and the bill for decades of mismanagement is finally coming due. So the real question isn't just whether Iran can find more water, it's whether the country's national unity can actually survive this crisis. Thanks for joining me on this Explainer.